For most of human existence, our ancestors moved with the seasons, hunting, gathering, following the rhythms of nature. But roughly 10,000 years ago, something extraordinary began to happen. In a handful of river valleys scattered across different continents, human societies began to transform. They settled, they farmed, they built, and eventually they created what we now recognize as civilization. This wasn't random. Archaeological evidence indicates that the world's earliest complex societies emerged in remarkably similar environments, along the banks of major rivers. The Nile in Egypt, the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Indus in South Asia, the Yellow River in China. These waterways didn't just support human life, they fundamentally shaped it, providing the resources and challenges that pushed societies toward unprecedented levels of organization, innovation, and cultural development. Understanding why rivers became cradles of civilization requires us to examine what these environments offered that other landscapes could not. Most historians and archaeologists agree that rivers provided a unique combination of fertile soil, reliable water, transportation networks, and predictable patterns that enabled agricultural surplus, population growth, and social complexity. But the relationship between rivers and civilizations was never simple. It demanded adaptation, cooperation, and technological innovation on scales never before attempted. This documentary explores the archaeological and historical evidence behind one of humanity's most important transformations, the shift from mobile groups to settled civilizations along riverbanks. We'll examine what made river valleys so conducive to complexity, how ancient peoples adapted to these environments, and what legacies these early civilizations left behind. If you're fascinated by the origins of human civilization and want to explore more about how geography shaped our history, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue creating educational content about our shared human past. The fundamental advantage rivers provided was deceptively simple: consistent access to fresh water in a world where rainfall could be unpredictable or seasonal. But rivers offered far more than hydration. Annual flooding cycles, particularly in regions like Egypt and Mesopotamia, deposited nutrient-rich sediment across floodplains, creating remarkably fertile soil. Archaeological evidence from the Nile Valley shows that ancient Egyptian agriculture relied almost entirely on this annual inundation, which replenished the soil without requiring sophisticated fertilization techniques. The river's predictable flood cycle, occurring roughly the same time each year, allowed farmers to plan planting and harvesting with unusual precision. In Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the situation was more complex. These rivers flooded less predictably and sometimes violently, requiring human intervention to manage water flow. Evidence of early irrigation canals dating to the 6th millennium BCE demonstrates that communities quickly learned to redirect water to fields during dry periods and protect settlements during floods. This necessity drove technological innovation and organizational complexity. Rivers also solved a critical challenge of early agriculture: soil depletion. In rain-fed agriculture practiced in other regions, continuous farming could exhaust soil nutrients within a few seasons, forcing communities to move. River valley farmers, by contrast, received annual soil renewal through flooding, or could implement irrigation systems that sustained productivity for generations in the same location. The reliability of river-based agriculture enabled something revolutionary: predictable food surplus. Archaeological sites in the Fertile Crescent show evidence of grain storage facilities dating to 9000 BCE, suggesting communities could produce more than immediate needs. This surplus became the foundation for everything that followed: population growth, labor specialization, trade, and social hierarchy. Rivers didn't just nourish civilizations, they connected them. Long before roads or railways, waterways served as natural highways, allowing the movement of goods, people, and ideas with far greater efficiency than overland travel. Archaeological evidence of river-based trade appears remarkably early. In ancient Egypt, boats made from bundled papyrus reeds and later wooden vessels transported grain, stone, pottery, and other goods along the Nile's length. The river's flow carried boats north toward the Mediterranean, while prevailing winds from the north allowed sailing vessels to travel south, creating a two-way transportation corridor that unified Upper and Lower Egypt into a single economic and political entity. In the Indus Valley, excavations at sites like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro have revealed standardized weights, measures, and seals suggesting extensive trade networks. The Indus River system connected inland agricultural zones with coastal ports, facilitating commerce that reached as far as Mesopotamia. Artifacts from both regions found in each other's archaeological contexts demonstrate that river networks enabled intercontinental trade by the 3rd millennium BCE. The Yellow River in China similarly served as a transportation artery for early Chinese civilizations. Evidence indicates that by the Shang dynasty, approximately 1600 to 1046 BCE, the river supported movement of bronze goods, agricultural products, and tribute items between regional centers. Rivers also facilitated cultural exchange. The movement of merchants, craftspeople, and officials along waterways spread technologies, religious concepts, artistic styles, and administrative practices. Most historians agreed that this connectivity accelerated cultural development and innovation as communities could adopt and adapt ideas from distant neighbors far more readily than isolated settlements could. The strategic importance of controlling river access shaped political development. Settlements positioned at river confluences, fords, or delta branches often became centers of power, able to regulate trade and extract wealth from passing commerce. Harnessing a river's benefits required unprecedented levels of cooperation, planning, and engineering. This necessity, some researchers propose, may have catalyzed the development of complex social hierarchies and centralized authority. The construction and maintenance of irrigation systems demanded coordinated labor on scales previously unknown. In Mesopotamia, archaeological evidence reveals extensive canal networks stretching dozens of kilometers, connecting multiple settlements to water sources. These systems required regular maintenance to prevent silting, coordinated decisions about water allocation, and enforcement mechanisms to prevent upstream users from depriving downstream communities. Some scholars, following theories proposed by historians studying hydraulic civilizations, suggest that managing water resources required administrative bureaucracies capable of organizing labor, recording water distribution, and resolving disputes. This theory remains debated, but evidence is clear that early river civilizations developed sophisticated administrative systems. Cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia dating to the 3rd millennium BCE record water rights, canal maintenance schedules, and labor obligations, demonstrating that water management was indeed a central governmental concern. Flood control presented another engineering challenge. In ancient China, archaeological and historical records indicate that controlling the Yellow River's devastating floods became a defining challenge for early states. The river's tendency to change course and deposit massive amounts of sediment necessitated large-scale levee construction and channel management, requiring mobilization of thousands of workers and centralized planning. Egypt faced different challenges. While the Nile's floods were more predictable, maximizing agricultural productivity required careful monitoring of flood levels, construction of basin irrigation systems, and coordination of planting across vast territories. Evidence suggests that standardized measuring systems, nilometers, were developed to track flood heights and predict agricultural yields, informing taxation and resource distribution. These engineering demands, most archaeologists agree, created selective pressure favoring societies that could organize large-scale collective action, maintain administrative records, and enforce centralized authority, characteristics that define complex civilizations. The agricultural productivity enabled by river valley farming supported population concentrations unprecedented in human history. This demographic shift fundamentally transformed human social organization. Archaeological evidence from early Mesopotamian cities like Uruk shows urban populations reaching tens of thousands by 3000 BCE, staggering numbers compared to earlier settlements. The city's sustained growth depended entirely on agricultural surplus from the surrounding irrigated countryside, which could support both farmers and non-agricultural specialists. This dense population density enabled and required new forms of social complexity. Large concentrations of people needed coordinated waste management, food distribution systems, conflict resolution mechanisms, and defense organization. Evidence from excavated urban centers shows specialized craft quarters, administrative districts, temple complexes, and residential neighborhoods. Spatial organization reflecting social differentiation. In the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro demonstrate remarkable urban planning with grid-patterned streets, sophisticated drainage systems, and standardized building materials. Archaeological research indicates these cities housed populations estimated between 30,000 to 60,000 people, requiring supply networks drawing on extensive agricultural hinterlands along the Indus and its tributaries. Dense populations also created markets for specialized crafts and services. Evidence of full-time artisans, potters, metalworkers, weavers, scribes appear in all major river civilizations. This specialization accelerated technological innovation as craftspeople could dedicate entire lifetimes to perfecting specific skills rather than dividing time between craft production and subsistence farming. Urban centers along rivers became nodes of cultural production, where writing systems, monumental architecture, artistic traditions, and religious institutions developed. The concentration of resources, labor, and expertise in these cities enabled cultural achievements impossible in smaller, dispersed communities. However, this dependence on river agriculture also created vulnerabilities. Evidence from abandoned settlements indicates that changes in river courses, extended droughts, or environmental degradation could trigger urban collapse and population dispersal. Among civilization's most transformative innovations was writing, and its development appears intimately connected to the administrative demands of river valley societies. The earliest known writing systems emerged in Mesopotamia and Egypt around 3200 to 3000 BCE. Most scholars agree these systems initially served administrative and economic purposes rather than literary ones. Cuneiform tablets from early Mesopotamian cities primarily record economic transactions, grain distributions, livestock counts, land allocations, and tax receipts. Hieroglyphic inscriptions from Egypt similarly focus on administrative matters, royal decrees, and tribute records. This connection isn't coincidental. Managing complex irrigation systems, coordinating agricultural production across vast territories, collecting and redistributing surplus, and maintaining social order in dense urban populations created informational challenges beyond human memory's capacity. Writing provided a solution, enabling permanent records that could be consulted, verified, and transmitted across time and space. Archaeological evidence shows that literacy remained restricted to specialized scribal classes in all early river civilizations. These scribes underwent years of training in temple or palace schools, learning to read and write in systems that could contain thousands of distinct symbols. Their expertise made them indispensable to administrative hierarchies, giving literate elites significant social power. Writing's invention had profound consequences beyond administration. Once established for record-keeping, writing systems expanded to preserve religious texts, legal codes, astronomical observations, medical knowledge, and eventually literary works. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest surviving literary compositions, originated in Mesopotamia. Egyptian religious texts, Chinese oracle bone inscriptions, and Indus Valley seal scripts all demonstrate that writing enabled knowledge accumulation across generations. This accumulation created feedback loops. Recorded knowledge about agricultural techniques, architectural methods, astronomical patterns, and medicinal practices could be refined, tested, and improved by successive generations, accelerating technological and intellectual development in river civilizations compared to non-literate societies. The civilizations that emerged along the Nile, Tigris-Euphrates, Indus, and Yellow rivers laid foundations that continue shaping human societies millennia later. Their innovations in agriculture, engineering, governance, writing, and urban organization established templates that subsequent civilizations adapted and refined. Archaeological and historical evidence demonstrates remarkable continuities. Legal concepts developed in Mesopotamia influenced later Mediterranean legal systems. Egyptian architectural and engineering knowledge spread throughout the ancient world. Chinese administrative traditions established along the Yellow River persisted through millennia of dynastic change. Mathematical and astronomical knowledge accumulated in these early centers informed later scientific developments. However, these civilizations also reveal cautionary lessons. Several major river civilizations experienced collapse or severe disruption. The Indus Valley civilization declined around 1900 BCE for reasons still debated by scholars, though environmental changes and river course shifts are among proposed factors. Mesopotamian cities experienced cycles of flourishing and abandonment, often connected to salinization of irrigated soils, warfare, or political instability. Evidence remains incomplete regarding many collapse events, reminding us of the complexity of long-term civilizational sustainability. Modern scholarship recognizes that river civilizations developed diverse solutions to similar environmental opportunities and challenges. While sharing common features, agriculture, writing, urbanism, and social hierarchy, each developed distinct cultural, political, and technological traditions. This diversity demonstrates human creativity in adapting to specific environmental and historical contexts. Understanding why rivers gave birth to civilizations helps us appreciate how geography and environment fundamentally shape human possibilities, while recognizing that human choices, innovations, and social organizations determine how those possibilities unfold. The relationship between environment and civilization remains central to understanding our past and navigating our future.